What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Welcome to Tale of the Tape. This will be a new series that we're going to be running the entire duration of the offseason, really up until the NFL draft. What you're going to find in these videos is everything that you need to know about each prospect. And specifically in this video, it'll be Breece Hall. But all these guys that we're going to be talking about for the rest of the spring, basically, until we have our Dynasty rookie drafts, we need to break down these players from a film perspective. We need to break down these players on paper, some of the metrics that accompany their profiles, et cetera, et cetera. Stay tuned for next week. We're going to have our fully launched Patreon coming at you guys with our Dynasty Rankings Manifesto, Superflex, one quarterback, positional rankings by age bucket, basically foundational rankings, and then rookie rankings as we go through each of these prospects. So if you guys haven't, been waiting to sign up for our Patreon, now is the time to do so. Next week is when we're going to be fully launching everything. We'll also have draft class databases and rookie profile player cards and all that good stuff. So if you guys enjoy this video, again, hit the like button, comment any of your thoughts down below, what you think of Breece Hall, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and any suggestions that you have for this series, anything that you want to know, maybe that I don't talk about in this video, leave that below as well. We're going to hit the intro and then we're going to get right into this. Breece Hall, running back from the Iowa State Cyclones, was a four-star recruit coming out of high school. He was the 27th ranked running back in his class. So a guy that did have definitely have to work for the production that he earned. He didn't necessarily come in as the five-star recruit, number one running back in the class. As you guys can see on the screen, Breece Hall, age 20.6 years old as of today. So he'll be about 21 when he enters his NFL season debut. 6'1", 215 to 220 pounds, depending on which source that you use. Obviously, once we actually have the combine, we'll have official measurements on how big he actually is. Let's get into the 6 fundamental traits of the elite fantasy running backs. Now, I talked about this last year of why these traits are very important. For each of these traits, I'm basically going to talk about what I saw on film when watching Breece Hall, and you guys are going to see some film clips as I'm talking, and then the accompanying metrics to say that we can basically confirm or deny something that we saw on film. Because the worst thing in the world, I think, is people that will say something on film that they saw, but they go to the metrics and it says the opposite thing. So we're going to make sure that what we see on film actually does in fact match the metrics that we're seeing as well. And I think the best way to do that is to actually look at the metrics before watching the player. That way you get a good idea of what kind of player they are before you even watch a single second of them playing. So we're going to start with elusiveness because it is probably the most fundamental trait a running back can have. You got to be able to make people miss. If you can't make anybody miss, then you're not going to go very far in the NFL, and you're definitely not going to be very valuable for fantasy. So of the 6 fundamental traits that we're going to talk about, this is probably the one that comes most natural to Breece Hall. You will see a number of film clips going on as I talk right now of him routinely displaying elusiveness, a good understanding of how to frame defenders as they're approaching him. He's good at sticking his foot in the ground and getting around a guy pretty easily. He's very decisive with his cuts, with his running style. He's your typical like one cut and go type of running back. That's a term that's thrown around a lot, but I think it probably applies to Breece Hall very fittingly. His footwork is quite solid as well, as you guys can see. He displays good fundamental footwork, and then the metrics also back this up as well. So that was kind of the film stuff. Among the 24 running backs that are expected to go in the draft this year that I have in our running back database in our Patreon, Breece Hall ranks second in total missed tackles forced with 88, only to Kenneth Walker, who leads the class. And obviously he had a lot of volume, Breece Hall, this year. So on a per attempt basis, he actually ranks 6th in the class, where he forced a missed tackle on 30.56 of his total attempts, which ranks 3rd in the class among running backs who had 200 touches. So of the bell cows, he's definitely one of the most elusive running backs in the class. Let's move on to contact balance. And this is an area that he was definitely not as great in as he was elusiveness, because typically running backs do have a specific running style. You don't usually see running backs that are 50-50 elusive backs versus power backs. Breece Hall definitely fits the category of a guy who is an elusive back and not a power back, but it definitely was shocking to me on film how many times the first defender brought him down if they were able to get his hands on him. Now, obviously, if he's able to make the miss, that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm saying if let's say I'm a cornerback or a linebacker, if I can get my hands on Breece Hall, he was not very good at breaking tackles. He was good at avoiding them, but he wasn't very good at breaking them. And we can see a lot of prospects in the NFL and guys that have been very productive in fantasy. They have both to their game, right? Javonte Williams was a perfect example coming out last year. He was a guy that was very, very elusive, one of the most elusive running backs that we've ever seen, according to PFF, and also was very good at, putting his head down, trucking a guy when he needed to, and being very physical. J.K. Dobbins, Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris, also very good in both avenues the past couple of draft class. And for those guys, they were able to do it in multiple facets. And the thing I worry about Breece Hall is that he's not very good at breaking tackles, and he's not very good when faced with heavy contact. In some of the clips that you guys are going to see while I'm talking, you could see a number of defenders taking bad angles and arm tackling Breece Hall. And for a running back that weighs 215, 220 pounds, that shouldn't be a problem to break your tackle and keep going, on course and not disrupt your path that you're running in very easily. But with Breece Hall, he was very disrupted anytime he faced heavy contact. And that is definitely something to worry about, right? Because obviously in the NFL, the defenders are stronger, they're bigger, they're older, they're going to tackle a lot harder. So if you can't break tackles in college, that definitely is a concern in the NFL if you can't break tackles there as well. And then the metrics don't lie, right? I always say, if I see something on film and it doesn't match the metrics, then I need to go back and rewatch the film and see what I'm missing. His 2.83 yards after contact per attempt ranks 22nd of the 24 running backs in this class. And maybe it's because he's tall for a running back. I know 6'1" is typically a little tall for the running back position. We usually see them around 5'9" to 5'11", sometimes 6 feet. So he's not as compact as like DeAndre Swift, who's 5'9", for example. But this was definitely a big concern for me on film because routinely I saw him get taken down by the first defender that got their hands on him. If he wasn't able to make the miss, he was typically going down. So that is definitely something to be aware of when it comes to Breece Hall. Now we're going to get into receiving ability. Obviously, for those of you guys that play in PPR leagues, know that this is very important for fantasy. In our running back draft class database, which again, you can get access to via our Patreon by becoming a Patreon, patreon.com/fantasy stock exchange. Breece Hall's counting stats were quite impressive from a receiving perspective. He ran the second most routes in the class. So he was a guy that was on the field running routes heavily in his final season at Iowa State. He was fifth in the class in targets in 2021 with 41 targets, 37 receptions, 310 receiving yards, and he had a college target share of 7.2%, which is pretty good for a running back, 54th percentile per player profiler. But I was expecting a lot more from Breece Hall when I watched him actually catch the ball on film. He's definitely not a difference maker in the passing game. He can definitely contribute, I would say, and he's gotten adequate natural hands, doesn't drop the ball like a ton or anything like that. And he does excel in space when you can get him in space because of how elusive he is. But his route tree was pretty limited. You're going to actually see a Texas route, which is basically just an angle route that a lot of running backs run on the screen right now. And I wish that Iowa State had used him more in this fashion because I think he can do a lot more in the receiving game than he did when it comes to routes and stuff. But most of the stuff that he ran was check and releases and simple route concepts that a lot of college running backs should be able to run. They weren't asking him really to split out wide or into the slot or anything like that. And I do think he could have done it if they did ask that of him. So that's definitely something to be wary of. But receiving wise, he's definitely a plus in that category overall. Now it comes to scoring ability. Of course, you guys heard me talk about pass to RB1 production the past couple of weeks and also in this summer. And we saw Austin Eckler, Joe Mixon, Ezekiel Elliott, a number of these guys finish highly in the overall running back landscape this year because of their ability to score touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor, of course, too. And Breece definitely lapped the field in this entire draft class. There's bar none, not a better touchdown scorer than Breece Hall. He currently holds the FBS record, and he broke it this year for most consecutive games with a rushing touchdown. He has 24 straight games coming out of his college career with a rushing touchdown, 56 career scores, both receiving and rushing in 36 games of a college career for Breece Hall. 1.56 touchdowns per game, by far the best in the class. And on film, you can understand why he's so good at scoring touchdowns. Number one, his team, anytime he gets down to the red zone, is very, likely to give him the ball because he's their best player. But on the other side of things, he also excels in this area of the field, short area agility, awareness, finding holes quickly and decisively to put the ball into the end zone is a real skill. It is a real skill to be able to score touchdowns in short yardage because it's very compact. The defense is, honing in onto the running back most of the time, especially for Iowa State when everybody knows the ball is going to Breece Hall. Very similar to the high degree that Travis Etienne was able to score touchdowns last year. I think he was the best in the class as far as scoring ability in the class last year. And I think Breece Hall is probably going to be the best in the class this year. Of course, I haven't watched all these prospects yet, but given his metrics, I'm assuming he's probably the best in it. So if he secures a goal line role for an NFL team, watch out because this could be a guy that scores 10, 15 rushing touchdowns in his rookie season because I think that is definitely his best attribute. Now we go from his best attribute to his worst attribute, probably in my opinion, which is pass protection. Now, pass protection doesn't actually equate to fantasy value, but what it does equate to is playing time and time that you're on the field. Hall needs major work in this area, which it's not uncommon in that running backs in college don't usually know how to pass protect. But not only does he need technical work, which is going to come for the most part, he also needs, mental work as far as the pass protection game. I saw a number of clips, and you're going to see them as well, where he's blown up in pass protection. He's not able to get low enough and create enough of a sturdy base to be able to block a linebacker or corner or something coming on. And also, he wasn't great at reading blitzes. You're going to see a clip of him, just misreading a blitz and a defender comes shooting up the middle and he's not able to identify him. That is definitely something that needs work. And the reason this is so important, like I said, it doesn't actually equate to fantasy points, but it does equate to coaching staffs giving you a 3-down workload, which is what we want our RB1s and our top end running backs to get. If we're going to take this guy in the first round of a rookie draft, we want to know that he can become a 3-down workhorse someday, because that's the source of his ceiling. And with a 2-minute drill, long down and distance work, if you can't pass protect, coaches won't give you that work. And we've seen that from Antonio Gibson in recent years. He was not a running back in college, so he's not very good in protection. And the Washington coaching staff is favoring a guy like J.D. McKissic because he's much better in pass protection than Antonio Gibson. We've also seen it with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We've seen it with Joe Mixon. Even though Joe Mixon was great this year, he still wasn't a 3-down workhorse because they were using Samaje Perine and in previous years, Gio Bernard in that role. So Breece Hall's PFF pass blocking grade was 44.1 this year, 16th out of 24 qualified running backs. And his pass blocking efficiency was 86.7%, which is not actually very good. It sounds good, but it's 21st out of 24 in the class. A lot of running backs have 100% pass blocking efficiency, meaning they did their job. They didn't necessarily get their quarterback killed. And Breece Hall's being 86.7%, definitely not good. He has to improve in this area. Home run ability, the final trait that we're going to talk about. Again, this is not a required trait because we've seen a number of elite running backs like Le'Veon Bell, a couple other guys that don't have home run ability. They don't break off 60-yard touchdowns. But this kind of goes hand in hand with athleticism. It's just about creating breakaway runs. It doesn't necessarily need to be 70-yard touchdowns. It can be 30, 40-yard gains or 25-yard gains or even 15-yard gains, which Breece Hall can do. He definitely did it at a high rate, 7.64% of his total attempts, carries, and receptions. They went for 15 plus yards, and that ranked 8th in the class. And he's got good burst. He's very decisive once he finds a crease, should be an asset to him at the next level. Again, he's going to be a guy that can break off 15, 20-yard gains consistently, but I doubt he's going to be outrunning an entire defense for 60-yard scores every game. This is the Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry factor, where you don't need this, but if you have it, then you can be truly, truly elite, like Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, and Saquon Barkley have been in recent seasons. So quick break before we get into the next topic that we're going to talk about, to shout out our sponsors at Manscaped. Cheers to 2022 and resolutions that you can actually keep. How about upgrading your grooming routine for the new year? Our sponsors over at Manscaped, as you guys know, are here to make sure that your ball drops into 2022 in the cleanest possible way ever. Set your first New Year's resolution with good intentions and join the 4 million men worldwide, including both me and Danny, who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com and use promo code BUSH for 20% off plus free shipping. And no, that is not how I got the nickname. It's the new year, new me promo going on right now at Manscaped with the global leaders in male grooming. This year, you guys got to take your grooming to the next level with their Performance Package 4.0. Brand new ultra premium body wash as well. It's 2022, fellas. It ain't 2002 no more. We got to keep up with the ladies in the grooming game. Inside the Performance Package 4.0, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, you'll find the Signature Lawnmower 4.0 body groomer. This electric trimmer is designed to trim hair on loose skin. The advanced skin safe technology reduces cuts and nicks all over. It also comes equipped with a 4000K LED spotlight that will shine a light to the promised land 2022 looks to be. And if your ears and your nose need some trimming up as well, Manscaped's got you covered. They have the Weed Whacker. Their nose and ear hair trimmer uses a 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual-blade system, that was a mouthful, to provide proprietary skin-safe technology, which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate ears and nose holes as well. Polish off your stellar new routine with the free gifts from Manscaped with the Performance Package 4.0. You'll also get the travel bag, shed travel bag, and you'll also get the anti-chafing boxer briefs to tie the whole package together. And the new product that needs no introduction, the Ultra Premium Body Wash from Manscaped, ties the whole package together, the perfect addition to your grooming routine, but in the shower, basically. The body wash smells great too. It's cologne infused with aloe vera and sea salt to keep your skin feeling clean, nice, and moisturized. I use it personally myself, and I've had a very, very good experience with it. Kick discomfort and poor hygiene to the curb this year using the best tools for the job. And you're going to find those all at Manscaped, as mentioned. Whether your resolution is to work out more, travel new places, or whatever, add grooming into your resolution. I promise you will not regret it. In Canada, for example, we are still in kind of lockdown phase, but once we come out of that, you're going to want to make sure that you're groomed to the fullest potential. Be sure to travel to manscaped.com for our exclusive offer for 20% off and free shipping using promo code Bush on the Performance Package 4.0. Cheers to grooming with the best of the best. It's new year, new me in 2022 with Manscaped. Now, let's get into the subjective traits, and then we'll close out this video. Breece Hall is very much a subjective traits running back. And what I mean by that is that I think we can't necessarily equate some of these traits to fantasy production, but real NFL teams are going to like this about Breece Hall, and they're going to notice him, which will help him get drafted higher in the NFL draft. And some of the subjective traits that I think Breece Hall definitely has in spades is football IQ. So his just ability to play the position. He looks like a pro running back when you watch him. Decisiveness, like I said, when he finds a crease, he knows exactly where to go, put his foot in the ground, etc. Vision, whatever you guys want to call it, he knows exactly what to do. So you can call it football IQ, decisiveness, vision, whatever you want to call it. He knows what he's doing at the position, and he's very quick to diagnose runs, plays, defenders, make decisions, either when to bounce a run, stick his foot in the ground, or plow forward and get whatever is blocked for him or a few extra yards on top of that. When I was searching for comparisons for Breece Hall, I noticed that there was a lot of Le'Veon Bell comparisons. Now, I didn't necessarily see that. I don't think I think Le'Veon Bell was just a much better receiver than Breece Hall, which is why I don't think that comparison is very good. But as far as a running back is concerned, running the ball, I do think Le'Veon Bell is a pretty decent comparison for him because both guys have great vision. They're very patient, smart runners. So they definitely have that kind of element to their game. And also that is what we said about former Iowa State running back David Montgomery when he was coming out of school as well. So the one that I think is missing as far as subjective traits that I didn't necessarily see on film for Breece Hall was the physicality and toughness factor. Now, again, that kind of does go hand in hand with contact balance. So I don't want to knock him twice for technically the same thing, but he's no Javonte Williams. He's no, J.K. Dobbins or some of the guys that are just very physical, tough runners. Anytime I saw him try and go through guys, he wasn't able to do it consistently. 9 times out of 10, when he's framed with a defender in front of him, he's going to try and make a miss, not go through him. And you don't necessarily need to have both to be a productive running back in the NFL, but to be elite, you need to have both. And you need to have the ability to both go through a defender and around a defender like Jonathan Taylor can, like Saquon Barkley can, like Javonte Williams can, etc., to be one of those true RB1 types that we value highly in Dynasty. And that's ultimately why we're doing this, right? We want elite fantasy running backs when we draft them in the first round of our rookie drafts. Now let's get into athleticism. Now, again, I'd call him a plus athlete. I don't exactly know his athleticism yet because we haven't had the combine, but it sounds like he ran low 4.4s coming out of high school. 4.43 is the time that I could find specifically. I'd imagine he put some weight on when he came into college. So I'd expect him to run somewhere in the low 4.5s, high 4.4s area, which is definitely adequate for a running back of his size. If he runs 4.4s, low 4.4s even, that's definitely great. That's a positive in his category. Anything in the 4.5s is fine. And then if he runs in the 4.6s, I'll have to dock him a little bit, but I don't think that's probably going to happen. Agility wise, he should have no problem knocking the agility drills out of the park because he's definitely a very agile running back. And again, I will have actual numbers after the combine that will be listed down below and also will be in the database for our Patreon members if you guys want to sign up for that. Final grades. So based on a scale of 1100, and that is the scale that I grade on. I've been doing it for a couple of years. Don't ask me why it's not 1,000 and it's 1100. I learned from Matt Miller of Breacher Report, put out that he uses a scale of 1100 when I was like 18 years old, and I kind of just adapted the scale myself. His final grade came out to 835 out of 1100, or about a mid to late second round pick for me. I don't know how the rest of the class stacks up because I haven't watched Spiller, Walker, any of these other guys yet. But based on last year's class, this is how Breece Hall would have ranked. He would have ranked RB5 behind Travis Etienne and Najee Harris, who both had first-round grades for me. Javonte Williams, who had an early second-round grade. And then Michael Carter, who had about a mid-second-round grade, but it was a bit higher than what Breece's is. So even though Michael Carter went in the fourth round, I did have a mid-second-round grade on the guy. So Hall would have fit into about the same tier of a prospect as Michael Carter, which is why you're probably going to hear things about this running back class like it's not very good or it's not as good as last year's. And they're probably right because I don't think there's going to be a Travis Etienne, Najee Harris level prospect, Jonathan Taylor, some of the guys that came out in recent years. I think Breece Hall is probably going to be among the best in the class at the running back position. And to me, actual NFL teams will probably have him graded similarly. I'd imagine he hears his name called sometime in round 2 in the NFL draft. I highly doubt he's going to go in the first round. And then maybe even round 3. If his athletic testing isn't very good, I could see him going in round 3 somewhere. So comparable players, I kind of already touched on it. I wrestled with a couple of comparable players. The lazy one to make is David Montgomery because he also went to Iowa State and they do share some similarities. He definitely has a similar framework to David Montgomery, Le'Veon Bell, but my comp for him is actually Damian Harris. I think Damian Harris is a little bit more physical than what Breece Hall presents, but I really do like the same kind of pros and cons about both players. I think Harris has very similar strengths. He's very elusive, but he's not very good after contact. He's physical, but he doesn't necessarily drag defenders or anything like that. And he amassed 15 rushing touchdowns this year, which is definitely Damian Harris's best trait this season, at least, was his ability to score the football. And I think that's what Breece Hall can present to an NFL team as well, as a goal line back, similar to what we see from James Conner in Arizona this year or something like that. So that's Breece Hall's comparison. It's kind of a mess of a bunch of people. Nobody specifically kind of stood out to me. So David Montgomery, Le'Veon Bell, James Conner, and then Damian Harris, who's my official comparison for him, is the guys that he kind of reminds me of. Best fits, if you guys are curious, like what team should he go to? Any kind of wide zone running scheme is always favorable for running backs in general, and specifically for Hall, who is like the one cut and go type of running back. The first team that comes to mind specifically for that is the Jets. If they do want to add somebody to complement Michael Carter, that would make a lot of sense. Arthur Smith in Atlanta, they need a running back really bad. Mike Davis obviously didn't get the job done. Cordero Patterson's kind of a gadget player. So if they wanted to draft Breece Hall in the second, third round, that would make a lot of sense to me as well. Arizona, if James Conner is no longer there, would make a lot of sense. And Miami, if they're just looking for a primary ball carrier, bell cow type, Breece Hall definitely has handled the big workload in the past and can definitely do it again. So as I mentioned, if you guys did enjoy this video, hit the like button. It helps us grow. It helps us out tremendously. This took a lot of work for me to make these videos, and we're going to be continuing to come at you with these videos. Danny is going to cover Isaiah Spiller on Friday, and then we're going to get into some receivers next week, so on and so forth. If you guys enjoy the video, like I said, like, comment, subscribe. And also, if you guys are curious about the Patreon, go check out the site, see the benefits that are available to you. You guys are going to get access to our Dynasty Rankings Manifesto as soon as next week. And that'll have everything from our one quarterback, super flex, positional rankings, Dynasty rankings by bucket, et cetera, et cetera. Also, make sure to check out our sponsors, Manscaped. Appreciate them for sponsoring this video. Peace out, guys. We'll talk to you soon.